Hello and welcome back. So continuing on with stipulations in the quest system, what do you have up next, Zach?
Well, actually, in the last video, Gavin had mentioned that he had a stipulation.
Okay.
But he never got a chance to voice what it was. Gavin, what was your stipulation? Do you remember?
Well, it's all centered around the idea of exclamation marks floating in space.
Okay. What are your thoughts on that?
The long and the short of it is what you're writing now.
No floating punctuation. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. It's all about presentation of the quests. And I think it's a key thing to making it, as you said before, about the suspension of disbelief. There's nothing worse than a dialogue popping up. Obviously, you can't avoid that entirely. But the floating punctuation thing has become such a... It seems so
true. Do you have another thought of how to... Because I can tell you this. Being forced to go to every single NPC to say, hey, do you have work or a mission gets old.
Well, see, you have the option in the certainly from the human viewpoint of being able to look up people. Mm-hmm. So it would be possible to... I just think it's possible to present it graphically, make something obvious graphically.
Okay.
Perhaps like I've seen it in games before, like you do with targetable creatures occasionally. You know, have a key that you can hold down that will surround them with a rim light.
Like in Diablo 2, you could highlight boxes that you could open by pressing Alt.
Go ahead, Nelson.
But unless it wasn't...
Sorry, let me just briefly. In an ideal situation, it would be something like, rather than you seeing an exclamation mark and clicking on someone and him turning out to have this whole backstory, he's a thief and he's on the run from someone. If there's a guy skulking in the shadows that you spot, then you go over to him. It's presented to you in a way that's more, I don't know, just that takes you out of the game less, that's all. What were you going to say now?
Well, I don't think it's a matter of just like what Jason asked. Jason asked, I think, the wrong question. He's asked, how do you make it possible to see if NPCs have quests if it's not with an exclamation point? And part of it is what you said, Gavin, something that's incredibly obvious, a person skulking in the shadows, blah, blah, blah. But I think another part of it is just a fundamental different questing experience on how you get quests in the first place. And I think we already talked about that with the job board. With the job board, there is no reason to have an explanation over the character. In combination with what Zach had said a lot earlier about being able to find quests from random NPCs. And I think I did bring up what you just said, Gavin, that not all NPCs will have quests, but ones that do will be kind of sort of obvious in some sort of visual cue. Yeah, I just think it would be interesting because with the human side,
But I did ask the right question because you just gave me the answer.
Part of it.
No. The bottom line is when you have people that you have to interact with, NPCs that you have to interact with, you need some sort of visual cue that, hey, this person's got something that you can do.
You say interact with, but I mean, obviously, if you have to go talk to an NPC as part of a quest, that NPC should be highlighted.
That NPC should be highlighted?
Or there should be some indication on your little mini-map that this is a character you need to go to or something.
Maybe it's an opportunity to introduce a sort of... Because the problem with introducing player skill versus in-game character skill is that you exclude people on that skill basis. But on the other hand, if it's something like... just off the top of my head, if you look someone, say you're given a quest to assassinate someone, you'd have to go and you'd be given a picture of them, for instance. Well, then that offers up the opportunity, perhaps. I don't know how difficult this would be to implement. To, from the picture of them, they're wearing a big hat with a feather stuck out of it and a green top. And that's what you have to go and find, and it becomes
every assassin's daydream right there. It's like I just have to glance at that one picture once, and I can spot that dude from 7 miles away.
Well, yeah, but that's your level 1 quest. Not that we're going to have, but that's your introductory tutorial version of it. If you have to break into some top secret data system to find out to bring them up on the police computer and look at their record and find out where they hang out and who they hang out with, and get a rough mugshot taken from a long distance, and then I mean, it occurs to me that there are quests just like that in the GTA, certainly in GTA 4 and GTA San Andreas. There are exactly those sorts of things. I think in GTA 4 you can steal a police car and look Gavin, people up.
And that's perfectly fine in a single-player game.
I still think that would be very cool, even in this game. But I'm still just kind of on the quest giver, the NPCs in the town. So before we even get to addressing, you've now got a quest and you're going to find someone else or interact with someone else elsewhere. Just coming into an area, there's NPCs scattered all about. How do you go about knowing if they have a quest? I'm just saying I'm against the idea.
I just think that's an edge case, because I think the majority of the quests that you're getting are going to be through the job board.
So our whole game, that's just going to be a weird MMO if the whole thing is just revolved around.
No, but it's not, because we've already talked about multiple ways to get quests. Like you see someone die on the street, or you get contacted randomly, or someone runs up to you and talks to you, or you see or the designers make some sort of visual cue as to who might be talkable.
I mean, in that case that you just mentioned, Jason, why did your character go there in the first place? If they were sent there, then they've been sent there to do something, so they already know what they're looking for.
I know, in World of Warcraft, I've been out just exploring.
Yeah, but if we're looking at this world, at some point, you're going to have to find somewhere to. You're either going to find somewhere to camp for the night, or you're going to find somewhere to store your gear, or you're going to have to interact with someone somewhere. I think it's not necessary. It's. I suppose what Nelson was saying is it's an edge case. Perhaps I wouldn't go that far, but I don't think it's as severe a problem as.
It's something that we're going to have to deal with, because one of the ways we have already discussed that you can acquire quests is by talking to NPCs. Now, as admirable as it is to want to have no identification opposed to, apart from a positioning or a particular stance a character's in, or what they're wearing, or what a visual cue. That's a perfectly decent idea, but we can only record so many animations. We can only do so many textures and so many positions and you know what I mean. It's also a matter that there is a certain expectation of MMO players that an MMO will have certain elements, one of which is you walk into a new town and you immediately want to find a quest to do. And I don't think...
But in that case...
let me finish.
Sorry.
I don't think you are going to get the same response from players as you currently do if you don't have some sort of identification. I'm not saying that you have to have a giant floating exclamation mark.
Agreed.
But
I'm fine with them being identifiably different. Just maybe on the basis that the general populace, who you don't particularly have any reason to, your merchants, servants who are running all over town and people like that, are just a fairly, a limited range of backgroundy looking, grey, grubby characters,
And the quest givers suddenly aren't. They are shiny and pretty and pristine.
Well, but you as a graphic artist know there's ways of drawing attention to the foreground and pushing things to the background depending on their intensity.
But that's a very subtle. That's a very subtle art. With something like this, you need to. It's a punch in the face, which is why
it depends games how like WoW. You do it.
This is why games like WoW decided to use something as obvious as a giant floating exclamation mark. Because they know if they don't, players will just wander around aimlessly, finding the odd quest here and there.
Well, I have a couple of points to make. When do you get done, Chris? I'm sorry.
Okay. They'll float around, not really finding any quests, get bored and leave.
Well, it's interesting. You play EVE Online, which obviously has no characters walking around with floating punctuation. Nevertheless, on every station that you land on, there's always a division, a window that is divided that says, these are the people who are available to you, and these are the people who aren't. Meaning, without ever talking to these people, without making any contact with them whatsoever, some exterior system has already notified you right away that these people have work for you, while these other folk over here do not. And it's bright and it's obvious and it didn't require any work on your part. And really, it is the window interface equivalent to floating punctuation. It's just not floating punctuation. Now, at the same time, just the other night, I was playing Deus Ex Human Revolution. Brilliant game. I'm madly in love with it, even though I am playing it in DirectX 10 and it's not as pretty as it could be. I'm wandering around a bar, and I'm supposed to go talk to this guy who murdered his girlfriend, and it's all involved. And this is all going to sound pretty terrible if you don't realize that I'm just talking about a video game, and I realize that there's certain limitations in how many different character models and textures, but really, everybody looked alike. Now, if you know the area I'm in, please note I'm not making a racist comment. I'm just talking about the game design. Everybody did look alike. And there's not a label over this boyfriend I'm supposed to go talk to. So I found myself literally walking up to everybody in the bar, seeing which of them would have the name of the person I'm supposed to talk to highlight over them.
Yeah, I actually did the same thing. I remember that quest very well.
And that's fine. It's a single-player game, so it's detective work, and you're like, are you Mr. Lee? Or, excuse me? Are you Mr. Lee? You? Oh, excuse me? But it's, you like to think that you go in there knowing who the guy is. You're going to, hopefully be able to recognize him, but you can't because you're just a player. There needs to be some sort of system to punch all of your users in the face, as Chris put it, even if it's not floating punctuation. But
is that not what I was just saying?
That's not getting the quest. That's what I was saying before, where
he was a quest objective. It's the same thing.
No. Acquiring a quest is different, because remember how that quest was acquired? You ran into one of your teammates out of the blue doing something suspicious. See, that was a really interesting and engaging way to get the quest.
But you had no choice in the matter to run into that person, so I'm not even talking about that. That's not my point at all. But it's cool that you're taking my point and twisting it into something else entirely.
Do you not? I mean, you exactly said my point. You said they all looked, the way the game was done, they all look the same. I didn't say that.
You want there to be a subtle shift where everybody else is grimy and kind of gray and drab, except for the quest giver, who's special. Subtly special. Yes? Gavin?
Sorry, I find it frustrating because you're...
Don't be frustrated.
Well, you're the artist and you know what I'm talking about.
I don't think you comprehend how difficult it is.
It's just, the same.
I see, and here's the problem that I think you're setting up. Yes, I see what you're talking about, but really, seriously, do you want to put that level of dichotomy in your environment?
It's almost as bad as having a giant floating punctuation, in my opinion.
Well, there's levels of it, but just a thought.
Okay, no, it's cool. I just. No, absolutely. I see where you're coming from.
All right, let's do this. We're gonna be right back, guys. This one's over 10 minutes. Let's go ahead. Hold your thought, Gavin, right where you're at, because I want to pick right back up. So we're gonna end this video. We'll see you guys in the next.